So let's write down some key information from our problem, first of all. All right, so our key information is going to be the mean. Let's start with our n, actually. How many are in our sample? What is our n?
6.
Our n is 6. Let's figure out our mean. Our mean is the sum of all these scores divided by n. And the sum of all these scores is 480. I did that in Excel already, so you don't have to check that. And we're going to be dividing by 6, and that equals 80. So our mean in this data set is 80, okay? Our distribution looks like this. I'll draw our mean here. This is our 80. And the first score is a 75, it's down here. Second score is a 98, somewhere up here. Then we have a 90. We have a 60, which is down here somewhere. We have an 80, which is right on the mean. And we have a 77, which is right here. And we're now going to figure out spread, which is essentially how far are all these points from the mean. The first thing we do in that process is to figure out our deviations. I'm going to move this actually, if I can. Let me move this over. It's not here. Okay, can you guys get this visual image in your mind's eye? Because I don't think I can get it to move. Let me try one more time. No, I can't get it to move, so I'm going to have to erase it right away. Somehow my features are, I'm taxing my computer too much is what I'm doing. So, yeah, definitely taxing my computer too much. Okay, that's okay. I'm going to move to down here then for the rest of ours, and I'm going to transfer our data. So what we had concluded was that n was 6 and m was 80. So the next thing we have to do to find out what our spread is we have to figure out our deviations. Do you remember the formula for deviations? Anyone have it written down?
X minus m.
X minus m, and that's what you were just working with. So let's go ahead and do this, and I'm going to give you some more words now. Let's make a column for our deviations, and we'll do our deviations in blue again. Deviations is x minus m. 75 minus 80 equals negative 5. 98 minus 80 equals 18. 90 minus 80 equals 10. 60 minus 80 equals negative 20. 80 minus 80 equals 0. 77 minus 80 equals negative 3. If we add all these up, I can see the negative numbers add up to negative 28. 20 plus negative 20 plus negative 3 plus negative 5, 28. And the positive numbers add up to 28. 18 plus 10 is 28. These are going to sum up to 0, so we have to solve that problem. So let's solve the problem following our steps. We're going to square the deviations first of all. All right, negative 5 squared equals 25. 18 squared equals, let's pull up the calculator. $18 squared is 324. 10 squared equals 100. Negative 20 squared equals 400. 0 squared equals 0. Negative 3 squared equals 9. All right. Does anyone happen to know what our next step is? Do you remember, even though we've only had just one example, do you remember what we have to do next?
Divide by n.
We have to figure out the average of these square deviations, right? So the first thing we do is we figure out the sum of the square deviations, and we're going to call it SS. SS equals sum of squared deviations. All right. And the SS, let's write it in our new language, is the sum of our deviations, that's x minus m squared, the sum of our squared deviations. So we're going to add up this column in essence. So let's go ahead and use the calculator so that we don't make any mistakes on this. So I'm going to clear this out and just type in 25 plus 324 plus 100 plus 400 plus 9. And we find out that the sum of squares is 858. Here's another new term then. The term for what we get when we divide by n or get that average is called the variance. I abbreviated VAR. You'll see it abbreviated differently in your book. We're going to use consistently in our class this abbreviation. I'll tell you why in a minute. Equals sum of squares divided by n. Equals sum of square deviations divided by n, which is the same as saying 858 divided by 6. We'll use our calculator. 858 divided by 6. Our variance is 143. And again, these two together is just finding the average of the square deviations, okay? Our last step to get our standard deviation the way we're calculated now, we abbreviate it SD equals standard deviation and the formula is always just the square root of the variance, okay? Square root of the variance. Standard deviation equals square root of variance equals, let's find out. 11.9. How many decimal places should I use? 1. All right, let's take 4, 9, 5, 8, 2 or 3. 11.958. Should I round up or round down? Round up. I round up because of this 6, so I'm going to write 11.9583. 11.9583. Okay. That's our spread. Right here is the magic number that we did all this work to find out. Okay. So now we know for our measures of central tendency, we know that our mean is 80, and we know that our standard deviation is 11.9583, and the standard deviation represents the distance of all those points from the mean. That's that. So now what I want you to do are 2 practice quizzes. The first one is asking you, let me just check and make sure I know what it's asking you and give you a couple examples. So we're going to be exiting the preview here. so going into the practice quizzes for chapter 2, where we're at right now, and we'll discover, let's just do a first one together real quick, because I can't remember quite how I presented these to you. We did deviations. Oh, sum of squares we need to do first, okay? So this is what you'll have to do, and this might take a little bit longer. So you'll see the problems are asking you to write in an answer, and then it tells you how to write the answer. So you have 3 scores, has a mean of 12, and the scores are 16, 14, and 6. So now I'm asking you to find SS. Let's write this information down and solve this one together, and then I'll have you start this on your own. So finding my whiteboard again. 16, 14, and 6 with a mean of 12. Here's score 1, 16, 14, 6, and we know M equals 12. And what is N, just out of curiosity? How many people in this?
3.
N is 3. All right, so now it's asking us to find out the sum of square deviations. So we have to figure out the deviations first, right? So let's figure out the deviations. 16 minus 12 is 4. 14 minus 12 is 2. And 6 minus 12 is negative 6. Now we have to square those deviations. See if I can get my eraser to work. Taxing my computer, I have to do some work on it. Next, we square the deviations. So I'm going to have to write this down below because my eraser isn't working at this time. So 16, 4, 14, and 6 were our scores. Our deviations were 4, 2, and negative 6. Now we square our deviations. 4 squared equals 16. 2 squared equals 4. Negative 6 squared equals 36. And how do we get our sum of square deviations? We cut these up. So we end up getting 40 plus 16 is 56. And if we did all our work right, we should be able to write 56 in that test item. And it says, write your answer as a whole number with no decimal places. So make sure you round appropriately. And we save your answer. You're only doing 2 of these. I think that if I give you 3 minutes per problem, 6 minutes total, that might be enough. But I'm going to set the timer, and if the bell rings and you guys aren't ready, then I'll let you have more time. So you're going to go ahead and do practice 2E, sum of squares. Set timer for 6 minutes. 6 minutes, counting down. You guys get it?
It said that the first one was wrong.
The one that I did?
Yeah.
Let's check our math.
I think it gave me 32 or 36, I believe.
All right, so if there's a discrepancy,
Uh-huh.
and the discrepancy is either we did it wrong when we solved it, so we'll look at that, or there's an error in the answer. And so when you see that column in the grade book that says bonus error detection, then if you find an error in one of those quiz items, it's really important that you let me know. Because what I'm doing is, remember, I'm putting together hundreds of items, and the possibility for me typing something in wrong when I do so many items is it happens, you know, so I really need students to help me if they find an error. We'll check our item on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see an error here. And you're sure it was the same numbers, not just similar numbers?
Yeah, it was the same numbers.
I am not seeing an error. So I think that the problem is wrong.
Okay.
So I'll fix that problem. And then when I do that, it always regrades and gives you credit for it. And it doesn't matter because it's just practice. Are you guys online? Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, some indication of whether you're ready to move on. Tadeo? L'Oreal, Sam, Diana, Tracy, might be off, Samantha. Are you guys good? Okay, this is really important concept. So this is when you want to practice. Now, let me tell you a secret. There's an item exactly like this on the quiz. So you see how beneficial to do the practice. Now, when you see this on the quiz, you're going to know what to do. Okay. And again, as I just said in class, every now and then there's an error. I hate it when that happens because it's so discouraging for students. And I think I have this pretty clean by now. But we just found one in the problem that I solved. I don't see an error in our solution. That means that I typed in something wrong when I made this item. All right. And that could happen when I'm doing hundreds of items like this. So just always send me a message and you get a bonus point, straight up bonus point for error detection. Okay. Next, let's move on and do the variance one. We're going to start off together and then move into our own individual doing it. So the next one is variance. You're ready for it. Variance, remember to just review a moment here on the whiteboard. Variance is sum of squares divided by n. I'm pretty sure this is the direction it's taking you, but if not, then I'll come back and show you. And of course, you already know, in case it takes you back so far, that sum of squares is the sum of all of the squared deviations, okay? So let's go ahead and start that quiz and we'll do a problem and hopefully get it right. So we have 10 scores and the sum of squares is 60. What's the formula for variance? Did you guys all write it down when I gave it to you? Sum of squares divided by n. So that should be 60 divided by 10. Write your answer as a whole number with no decimal places, 6. All right, I don't need to do any more, right? This is pretty easy. So go ahead and do the variance. I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. Set timer for 2 minutes.